Hello Internet. Today I'm going to be entertaining you with an AMD, and I'm feeling good about this one because all I have to do, I think according to my notes, is to solder that driver MOSFET. See here that someone decided to lift off the board for whatever reason. I do not know. If I'm not mistaken, I think this thing is working, and I'm also happy that I was finally able to get my motherboards, my testing motherboard. This is the motherboard that I use for all of my GPU repairs, except for 5000 series. I needed to replace the PCI Express socket. So the one reason why I like this motherboard is because it is 100% compatible with all of the mats, mods, you name it. It's cheap. The CPU is cheap. I think it's like an LGA 1151. Yeah, that's the latest and greatest CPU that is supported by mods for all of the previous generations GPUs other than 5000. So we got 5000 series. You're gonna need a Gen 5 PCI Express motherboard. Everything before that, this motherboard can do, except for AGP, of course. So who cares? The socket replacement was fun. All I needed to do was, because it's a through hole PCI Express slot, so I just put some low melt, got that out of there, relatively easy with some hot air assistance, and I got that out of there. So that was all fine and dandy. I was getting a lot of problems with no detect, and the GPU would just act very strangely. And to keep myself entertained, I bought myself this broken Handycam. I have no idea what's wrong with it other than it does not power. Now don't be terrified with the lens looking kind of sideways. That's actually normal. So once it gets powered, the lens stabilizes and whatnot. So this is like a optics stabilization thing, I believe. I don't know what it is, but it's so it's a nice camera. This is actually the camera that I'm using right now to film the top-down view. So the only downside of this camera is that it cannot do 4K through the HDMI. So it can only do 1080p, 60 FPS through the HDMI. But if I was to record into the SD slot or the SD card, then it would do 4K, obviously. But other than that, a lot of manual things that you can tweak to get yourself the image that you're looking for. So I do need a camera to sometimes troll Northridge Fix, recording myself on the side. And I'm also and another reason why I need that is because I'm using my old camera for recording the package opening process. So that way, if God forbid something happens and somebody files a claim against me saying, hey, I sent you 5090 with the core and memory, but you're saying it's not there, I will have the footage to prove otherwise. So I will be opening those boxes and record the process, and if there's anything that I need to submit to the owner, like a 4090 with no core memory or a 5090 with no core memory, I will be able to do that from now on. So with a couple of repairs recently that ended up being a scam, I think I got a little bit too close to that being a possibility that I do not want to get any closer than that. Though both customers ended up being, good, honest people, even though one said the core was there, he saw it, but when I opened it, the core wasn't there. So if he were to file a lawsuit, neither one of us can really prove anything. So it would just be up to the judge to decide who's getting ripped off. And but that's not going to happen. So because I am now covered. All right. Regardless of all that mumbo jumbo, I do not know the reason why this driver MOSFET is removed, and I don't really care. Hopefully I have a replacement. I should have plenty of AMD spare parts so that I can easily replace this. I'm not going to solder it back down. Whatever the reason for its partial removal was, I'm pretty sure that reason still stands. So, but I don't know, and I don't really care. Make some adjustments here. Put that there. Turn on some heat. And so I want to identify this thing first so I know what it is. Let's look under a microscope and have a look. Probably need a wipe off of that stuff, whatever this stuff is. Okay, so it's an MP87997. Yeah, 87997. Holy cow. I wonder if I have one. And I do. I got one right here that I will be using. This guy, 87 997. Alright, so we're going to be putting that there, exactly like that. This one already has... Why is it so dark? Let's rotate the lens. This one already has all of the solder on there that we need. See here, I already had it prepared. So all I really got to do is to swap it around. Okay, I'm going to put this one here. And we're going to apply some black horse stuff. Black horse manure, like so. And we're going to remove this thing as soon as the board warms up. And swap that driver MOSFET, and who knows what else this card has. Hopefully it works just by doing that, and that would be my AMD contribution for the year. Alright, we're just over 120 degrees on the board. Let's get this thing off of it if we can. Kind of funny, almost as if the driver MOSFET was... Look at that. What is that? It's like a capacitor in there or something? Look at this. There's a resistor or a capacitor. So it looks like the driver MOSFET was not soldered from factory. And instead, there's a resistor. What is going on in here? You guys see this? Holy cow. Wow, that's definitely unexpected. Okay, that makes zero sense whatsoever. Whatever. So it could have been a working driver MOSFET, but I still don't want to put it on there. No way. That is very wild. I have not seen anything like that. Like, ever. Like, how did that even get past the quality check? That is just wild. I am speechless, and I have no idea what to say. Now let's go and pick up all that mess so it looks nice and clean. Like that. Get some of those off so it doesn't look like a pair of balls on the capacitor. It's a ballsy capacitor. That's probably good enough. Now, why, how, and when did that happen? That's what I like to know. I also want to know which phase that is. This is definitely factory. There's no way this came out of some user trolling me or something, or some shop doesn't know how to solder or anything like that. Not even close. This had to be like that from the factory. Some resistor got in there somehow, sitting perfectly straight down on its end. And the other end is pointing right at the driver MOSFET. And all that was soldered. Obviously it wasn't functioning, but this is weird. Very weird. What is this here? Looks like an extra blob of solder. I'm not sure if it's mine. Alright, who cares? This is wild. I don't know. This makes absolutely... Yeah, look at this. This driver MOSFET, it still has all that gold plating coating on it. See? Yeah, because these are premium driver MOSFETs. They're gold plated. So these are no joke. I like AMD because they put fancy, expensive, high quality stuff on their boards. But I'm gonna throw this away anyway because I don't know what's going on with this thing. Just to be safe. Yeah, this is weird, man. Alright, so I'm gonna cool this thing down and we'll continue on trying it out, see what's going on. Alright, let's see what we got in here. This is probably 0.75, 12, 1.8, 1.3, VPP, somewhere here. Memory, another memory, and GFX. And then this driver MOSFET here is, I don't know, it might be part of the SoC. Hard to say. I'm gonna have to measure this with the milliohm meter to be sure. 0.4, 0.4. Yeah, it's part of the... It's a USR, I think. SoC USR. And then some GFX, and then some SoC VDCI or whatever this is. I don't remember. Alright, so it's looking good. Let's power this thing on, see what it does. Hopefully it's gonna be all good. And hopefully we're gonna have one very strange repair. Just soldering a driver MOSFET that wasn't soldered properly at the factory, with the resistor sitting underneath it and somehow passing quality control. We're pulling 1.2. We're not gonna have any GFX, AMD, but we're gonna have, should have this. Yes, we have that. And then we should have this. Yes, memory, VDCI, and no GFX. Alright, so that looks good. I could go into firmware and force enable GFX, basically setting it from 0 to 0.7 or 0.8 volt, whatever. Not gonna do that. But now, let's see if this thing boots. And if it does, it will be the easiest AMD repair ever. Though, I'm still not sure the actual reason for the customer to bring this over here for repair. Maybe it was crashing or something. Well, we're gonna find out one way or another. So, that goes here. And here goes almost nothing. Here we go. And the driver MOSFET is working perfectly fine, according to my oscilloscope. I know you cannot see anything on the screen. That's because AMD is being a jerk. And it refuses to display anything to the capture card, but I see an image on the screen. So we'll wait for the drivers to pick up. And there we have it. Okay, so it looks like we got 7900 XTX. Run some light load here. Make sure it's not artifacting with some weird stars and stripes or geometric distortions. If you see those, rest in peace, 7900 XTX. But we'll see. Looks clean to me. I'm not gonna torture this for too long because we don't really have a cooler here properly cooling anything. Close that, shut down. I'm gonna go ahead and assemble this thing and hopefully everything works great. So if it doesn't, we'll continue. If not, that will be it for this repair. And what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna try to see if I can get this thing to work, because this thing is ridiculously expensive. So I bought the broken one to see if I can fix this. It's a risk, but I think it's a risk worth taking. So especially given the price, I think I got this one for like 140 total, and the working one is like $500, $600. If anyone interested, I'll show you what the model is. It's an FDR AX43. Yep, it's nice. It's a decent camera. Too bad it doesn't have 4K HDMI output, but it is what it is. So that will be it. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this was shocking. As shocking as it was to me, seeing that driver MOSFET not being soldered from factory. I have never seen anything like that before. That is just strange, and especially with that capacitor or the resistor sitting down there just like chilling, that's even more strange. So just a lot of strange things going on in here lately. So I don't care. I just work here. Goodbye.